Don't let one bad leg haunt your parlay. Parlays turn into payouts, and now even near misses won't haunt your bet. The NFL season is here, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, is rewriting the rules with Ghost Leg, a new game-changing promotion that turns close calls into cold, hard cash. Best of all, it's available to all DraftKings customers. Here's how it works. Build any 3+ leg pregame NFL parlay on Sunday, apply your Ghost Leg token, and if one leg loses, DraftKings makes it vanish like it never existed and pays you out in cash for the rest. Last season, over 30 million parlays were lost by a single leg. This year, Ghost Leg gives those busted bets a second life. No more busted parlays that haunt you all season. With Ghost Leg, the bad leg vanishes. The payout doesn't. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code PFF. That's code PFF to unlock Ghost Leg, the promotion that makes one bad leg disappear and pays you out in real cash. Ghost your losses, get your payout in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours.
Commanders and the Giants. Commanders win this game 21-6. I wouldn't say that the Commanders won this one convincingly.
They didn't command it?
I would say that they didn't command this win. Yeah, but a win is a win is a win in this league, and you're always going to take it. Let's take a look at the top 5 graded players that we had for the Commanders that's in this one. Your boy, Javon Kinlaw, at the top of the list. 89.7. Love to see that in his Washington Commanders debut, especially after some criticism from us on the desk here, as many others, question the contract that they gave him. But, hey, early returns, you love to see that for them. Safety Will Harris with an 84.1, number 2 on the list. Defensive tackle Eddie Goldman with an 84.0. Running back Bill Krosky Merritt, 4th in the depth chart, my ass. 79.3 in his debut here in the regular season. Offensive tackle Laramie Tunsil with a 79.0, and then your boy Jaden Daniels with an 83.9. On the Giants side of things, their rookie Abdul Carter with an 81.5 in his regular season debut. Dexter Lawrence right behind him with a 78.5. Edge rusher Brian Burns, a 71.0. Wide receiver Malik Neighbors with a 68.0, and then edge rusher Kayvon Thibodeau with a 67.9. Boy, all the stars. There they are. Basically everybody that we talked about the most.
That's all
for the New York Giants.
That's their 5 best players right there. There they are.
It's in the top 5. You love to see that. Quarterback Russell Wilson in this one. Off target more than you would prefer, and I'm sure we'll talk about that here in a second, but 54.1. I also saw, well, actually, I'll let you start this. Stat that told the story here for you.
All right, Trev, there's something I usually like to say about offensive lines, okay? Good offensive lines, they block on the first level. Great offensive lines block on the second level. The Giants' offensive line doesn't block on any level. It is there's all sorts of quarterback controversy. Now, I'm not saying Russell Wilson wasn't good. He wasn't good yesterday, right? This Giants offensive line, especially without Andrew Thomas playing, they don't give anybody a chance to win. I don't care if it's Wilson or Jackson Dart or Jameis Winston or Tommy DeVito or Phil Simms or Eli Manning. They can't block anybody. They just can't. Even with Andrew Thomas, when he is healthy, they can rarely block anybody. But you go a 56.9 PFF grade as a unit, 46.4 run blocking grade. Trev, on 17 design carries. Again, this game was put way too much on Wilson's shoulders. 17 design carries, 34 yards. You're getting 2 yards a carry on the ground, and you can't protect Wilson even against a unit. And I know that Javon Kinlaw was great. They made a couple acquisitions here. But this Washington defensive line was the second worst in football last year, and they can't even block this team. So the Giants, they're talking quarterback. Is it Jackson Dart? Brian Daboll's non-committal? I really don't care. I actually wouldn't put Jackson Dart.
They just announced that Wilson's going to start this week.
That's better because I actually just wouldn't put Jackson Dart behind this offensive line for as long as I can. That would scare the hell out of me. Especially with Andrew Thomas, if he's going to be week to week and not 100% now. We know he's been injury prone, but I mean, Wilson under pressure on 17 out of 45 dropbacks. I think this is the one thing we looked at as the kryptonite. The D-line is great. The secondary was not great in this game, but tough matchup against Jaden Daniels, and you still held him to 21. That's not terrible, right, against Daniels in this offense. They can't block anybody. And if you can't block Washington, who are you going to block? I honestly, and look, and they played a good game. I'm not saying, guys like Kinlaw and Eddie Goldman and Deron Payne and these guys didn't play well in this game, but this Giants offensive line is the anchor sinking the ship. I mean, okay, they're playing Dallas next week. Cool. We'll see what that matchup looks like. But Dallas's D-line was a little bit better than we expected. But you got teams like Kansas City and Philadelphia and Denver and Nick Bosa and San Fran and Micah Parsons and the Packers, all these teams on your schedule that can rush the passer, that can stop the run, that you need to be able to block up front. This is one of the teams, and there's a list of them, probably 5 or 6. This is one of the teams where they could be good, and the offensive line can sink the whole operation. And to me, that's where that was the story of this game. Trev, they had the better scenario here. In this game, they had 11 plays in goal-to-go situations, all right? 3 different drives, I believe. They scored 3 points.
Yeah.
They just can't. They can't block anybody. And until they can, I'm not throwing Jackson Dart out there anytime soon. I'm stalling as long as possible. And you know what? If Wilson takes the beating, or even if Jameis has to do it, I'm not putting that kid behind this offensive line the way they're playing. I can't do it, especially not when Andrew Thomas still isn't in there.
Yeah, it's an interesting sort of discussion of which quarterback that you put behind an offensive line that you maybe don't trust, because you hope that behind the closed doors the coaching staff is honest about sort of where they are.
I saw this with Zach Wilson and the Jets, and Zach Wilson is a talented kid, and eventually it didn't work, but they never blocked for him.
Yeah.
Anytime he was there, they never blocked for him.
So Jackson Dart last year, I just checked this, 69.0 passing grade under pressure last year. Now, his best games came in the beginning part of the season where their schedule was a little bit softer. But as you got into SEC schedule, he had some tough games under pressure, but he also had some decent games under pressure. So I won't take that away from him there. Russell Wilson yesterday, when he was under pressure, 48.4 passing grade. He completed just 5 of 16 attempts, but 0 turnover-worthy plays. So I wonder if the equation now for the New York Giants is simply the fact that, hey, is Russell the guy to make the most plays under pressure for us? No, probably not, because they have Jameis and Jackson Dart on the team. But is he the guy who is most likely to, or I should say least likely, to have a bunch of turnover-worthy plays under pressure? That may be the case.
I don't even think
that might be the case for them. But that might be part of the decision why they say, okay, we will roll with Russell until maybe we get 5-6 weeks into this season and realize that, okay, maybe our defensive line, because I don't know if this is going to be true or not, but maybe they're simply saying, let's see if our defense can do enough for us. Let's see if the run game can get a little bit better for us, and let's just not have somebody who's going to throw a bunch of turnover-worthy plays. But if the Giants are sitting there at 1-4, week 5, week 6 comes around, then you have to reevaluate, and you have to say, okay, well, now the lack of turnover-worthy plays don't matter. Because if Russell's not going to be somebody to make plays for us under pressure, now the equation changes. And that, to me, is maybe when we're going to see them make a change to a different quarterback, which I would assume will probably be Jackson Dart.
The one reason I would think then it would matter early in the season if Jackson Dart was in there is you also don't want to create bad habits, right? You don't want a guy either getting gun shy or maybe trying to force it through the pressure or those plays that those plays you're talking about. That's a lot of what, say, a Caleb Williams would do with the Bears last year, right? Or even back when he was at USC, where you're trying to do everything. You're trying to save us. And at this point, one guy is not going to save this Giants offense. I don't believe that. They need 5 guys up front to save this Giants offense first. They need to be able to run the football because at the end of the day, look, 6 points on this Washington defense, as bad as we saw it at times last year, that's not getting it done. And I mean, you've got one more week against Dallas to prove, okay, can you be more functional up front? Can you have more than 34 rushing yards, from your running backs? I mean, this is already a problem. And we thought it might be a weakness, and it was a bottom 5 offensive line last year, and it's basically the same crew. And whenever Andrew Thomas gets healthy, it gets a little better. But this is the kryptonite.
Yeah.
And Wilson. Here's the problem with Wilson. Last year, highest graded deep passer in the NFL, right? Which is good, and you want that.
Pass block. You got to pass block.
You don't have time.
Yeah, you got to pass.
You don't have time. Even with Jackson Dart, we know him as a vertical passer, high ADOT from Ole Miss and all that.
Right.
If you don't have time, it doesn't matter.
The philosophy's there. I like the receivers that they have. I even like the running backs that they have to complement a deep passing game. But you got to block.
Absolutely. I don't think it's. You look at this offense and you look at now. Say the Houston Texans we'll get to later. But the entire reason even an offense as talented as that we're like, oh, it could sink the ship is because it can't block anybody. It's the same thing here with the Giants. Absolutely.
So that was sort of my most disappointing, my stat that told the story. Most disappointing was Giants' offensive line, in case we didn't mention this sort of within us talking about it. 13 pressures allowed. That was sixth most in the NFL so far here in week one. And then Wilson's inefficiency, 51 dropbacks from him. You mentioned how much they really put on his plate. 57.6 adjusted completion percentage. I mean, adjusted completion percentage got to be over 70% in this league, or you're not going to win. His wasn't even 60. 12 targets to Malik Neighbors, 5 catches. I mean, that's just, it's inefficient. And so again, like that's why. I mean, when I went back to watch the All-22 of Wilson, he's not. It didn't look terrible, but when he was missing, like he was just missing, like it was out routes where he was missing it by, I don't know, maybe like 1 to 2 feet. Like the throw was correct, it was where it needed to be, the timing was right, but he was just like, I am not risking a turnover. I am going to throw it to where either my receiver is making a full arm extension catch or the ball is not going to get caught at all whatsoever. So that's, again, why I wonder if this is why Wilson's in the game, because he's going to be somebody who's not going to put the ball in harm's way, but eventually you're going to get to the point in the season where that's not good enough. That will no longer be the priority for your quarterback position. For the most impressive, I have the Commanders' offensive diversity in this one because I thought it was fantastic. 5 different players carried the football. None of them had a yards per carry average below 4.3. You'd love to see that. And then 8 different receivers were targeted in this game. 6 receivers had more than 20 yards receiving. So it wasn't just the fact that, I mean, we talk about this with quarterbacks all the time, like, oh, he targeted 11 receivers. They weren't just targeting a lot of receivers. They were genuinely scheming things up for these guys to succeed. 6 different receivers having more than 20 yards is very, very tough on a defense to handle. So kudos to the Washington Commanders for Jaden Daniels, Cliff Kingsbury for dialing up a very diverse offense that clearly worked and was able to get them a win.
Yeah, you love the way that Deebo Samuel was utilized in several different
leading
ways.
Receiver for them.
Zach Ertz is still a big factor. Terry McLaurin didn't have the huge day like he has sometimes, but with Jaden Daniels running the point for this team and how well he makes his reads too. I mean, he just sees everything ahead of time. He's such a good processor and he's so accurate that he really doesn't care who he's throwing the ball to. Who he's throwing the ball to is the open guy, and he finds him more often than not. Just an incredible distributor of the football at this point. And he's so, even against that an elite defensive line where it was 4 of their 5 best players out there in this game, he's just so calm and cool back there. He's just that you talk about no turnover worthy plays and not putting the ball in danger. He knew that's all he had to do in this game, and 21 points is plenty good enough.
Somebody in the chat's asking, how is the Commanders' yards until contact, so yards before contact, 2.2 average.
That's good. If you get that out of this off again, and against this unit,
really good.
This I mean, if the offensive line now is going to play at a solid level, obviously with Laramie Tunsil, Josh Connerly starting it, and I mean tough first assignment for Josh Connerly, but clearly good enough. Brandon Coleman on the inside at left guard, it's a big factor. But if they're going to run the ball like that, and we know they've got a super diverse run scheme, and just with all those backs, and then Daniels himself with the option game, this offense is as dangerous as anybody in football because they have just so many options, and they have the quarterback who can carry them through even the hard times.
I'm going to make you say nice things about Javon Kinlaw before we move on.
Look, man, score 1 for Adam Peters. It's against the Giants in this offensive line, but Javon Kinlaw just ridiculously good in this game. 87.6 run defense grade. The Giants didn't run the ball much. Javon Kinlaw was out there for 11 snaps of it. He got 6 positive grades. That's always been the weakness.
Yeah.
If all of a sudden Dan Quinn all figured out what's wrong with Javon Kinlaw and he's a really good player living up to the first round hype, you got a whole different team. Because this defensive line to me was the biggest question going into it. 3 pressures in this game as well. Looked strong. He was moving well. I mean, you turn on the end zone cam in this game of Kinlaw, it looks like a different player than we've seen the last few years. Now, again, against this Giants unit, okay, we'll see. If you do it this Thursday against Green Bay, then we have a situation. But a really good game for him to start off, especially with all the big money and the expectations and the pressure needed to perform on this defensive line that, again, was the second lowest graded in football last year.